individual can't have alone.
Beautiful.
And they can still have a transcendent or enlightenment experience, but there's something in the shared relationship that has its own nuance or its own flavor. That's not better than. It just has, there's a dimension that you can't experience by yourself.
Remember in the beginning, a few minutes ago, when I said on this end of the spectrum, whenever consciousness is seeing itself, how it enhances, it comes to life in an even greater way. And then you're also talking about the uniqueness. So transpersonal quality, which is being reflected and mirrored, and then also the two specific vehicles of who the people are and what the unique chemistry and the unique alchemy of their unique self is, what that actually creates. Beautiful.
To pick that up, and it's completely gorgeous. I want to reflect it back to you, right, Gregory, in a slightly different way than Dee, that complements what Dee said. Just share with what my teacher said to me many years ago, which is really what you just said so beautifully. He said, if a couple look at each other, they look deeply into each other's eyes. Ultimately, as deep as they look, they may love each other, but they may remain profoundly lonely. But if the couple first look at the horizon together, they share the horizon. Right? They have a shared vision. They have a shared set of values. They have a shared quest. And then after they look at the horizon together, they then look deeply into each other's eyes. It's an entirely different order of consciousness. And that's just, and that's one of just the great gifts. And you know, a couple can be, by the way, a man and a woman. It can be work partners. It can be teaching partners. You know, couplehood comes in many, manifestations of the world. Right. Yeah. You don't want to leave that out. Jason, you were waiting there.
And one question relates to this, and maybe the separates will come back to it. But,
please.
It seems like, that we're talking a lot about choosing a partner, but like, what about the context of arranged marriage? So, let me talk about just for a second about choosing a partner in arranged marriage. Or, there's a very beautiful idea in Kabbalah. It's hidden. It's much more open in Buddhism, right? Which is called pointing out instructions. I'm familiar with pointing out instructions. You point out to kind of something which is already in someone's experience, some deep, truth about the nature of things, the true nature of things. So I don't know. Let me. I don't know. John and Pam. Hold on 1 second. Your question. You all married?
Yep.
Okay. I want to ask you a question. Is that okay? We do a little, experiment together. Okay. Okay. So did you choose to marry each other? You did. Okay. Okay. Did you have any other, like you could have met, were you just like stuck, Pam? There was just no one else around and you were just between us, it's just a little private conversation here. Or did you actually have other choices?
Actually, I did a lot of work.
You did a lot of work,
Historically.
Historically, I understand. So you feel like you really chose John to marry him. Okay, John, right? You really chose Pam? What, you weren't just like at the end of the bottom, you know what I mean? You just need to get married, like you really chose her?
Well, yes and no. Yeah, no. I was really exhausted from working in the wilderness, and I got out and we to get married, and I had to schedule it.
So you guys really felt that you autonomously chose each other, right?
Yeah, but when I got to the ceremony, everything became clear. Yes.
I understand.
Yeah.
And I want you to, everyone hold the space, everyone. I want you to drop down a level deeper and ask you a question. Pam, could you actually really be married to anyone else other than John right now in your life? Nope.
No.
John, could you be married to anyone else other than Pam? Did you really choose it yourselves? Did you hear it?
Yeah.
Right? And it's that place of choice and no choice. On the one hand, like John and Pam autonomously chose to marry each other. On the other hand, did they really? Did they really? Or just for whatever reasons of mystery, right? John and Pam, right, needed to be together, right, at this time, and it's what Krishnamurti calls choicelessness. Choicelessness. It's a beautiful word. And that's life chose. Right? Life chose. And in order for life to choose, oh my God, what needed to happen? 1,000 billion things needed to happen in order to have you guys come together at that particular place and particular time in which life chose you together. Now, which is true?
Both.
Both. Of course.
It's interesting because we'd been together for a lot of years, maybe 14, 15 years before we got married. But once we had that ceremony and we showed up and we made that choice, it shifted. It's different. It ain't the same.
Right, right. And I want to just kind of just keep the prism on choice and no choice. Right? Just back to you. Right? In other words, on the one hand, there's choice. Right? We choose. And then there's no choice. We don't choose at all. Right? And that's just, that's just a play that happens in life. It's the mystery of choice and no choice. Anyone else want to say something about that? You can hear that, yeah?
A lot of times, in my experience with my friends that have had parents in arranged marriages, they actually get to that third level more deeply than a lot of couples that chose to be together, because maybe they chose to be together and get married while they were still in phase one, and in their marriage they came up into phase two arguments, and it's like, man, I want to separate, this sucks, and so they get divorced, and they don't ever get to that depth of phase three. And if you don't have the choice to escape, and you have to do the work, or continue to suffer together, it's like, well, I guess we might as well just do the work and try to meet each other. And it seems to me that actually arranged marriage often works out pretty well.
We begin to realize that arranged marriage is not a choice that we're going to re-embrace as a society. I think that's clear. But it wasn't quite as dumb as it looked.
A lot of times your parents have more wisdom than you do.
Right.
And they might have their own corrupt issues in choosing your partner. But
Right.
anyway.
Right. As I was doing choice and non-choice, Diane, did you want to say something about choice and
No,
non-choice?
it's all been said. It's perfect.
Okay. Anyone else? Eros, questions,
I think
thoughts?
the choicelessness is very nice because it sort of lets you off the hook.
Or
Whether
keep,
the thing worked out or not, if you didn't have any choice, that it was beautiful and you didn't have any choice. So, because you were maybe that in love, so you just go with it.
I mean,
Then you don't have to wonder, should I have or shouldn't I?
Right. No,
Which is very
right.
nice.
Totally. Totally yeah. Right. So let's say it lets you off the hook, and of course you're completely totally on the hook as well. Right. And that's of course the paradox. In other words, there's an idea that people don't like to talk about, which is obligation. No one likes to talk about obligation. Obligation is like a bad word. We don't like to be obligated. We like things to be optional, kind of free-flowing. Kind of the core idea and the depth of every mystical system is that we are obligated, I'm using the word kind of very rigorously, we're obligated to be the absolute best that we can be. Right? And that because we're all unique selves, which we'll talk about this afternoon, after Diane takes us through, the 3-2-1 of shadow, but because we're all unique selves, meaning unique manifestations of divinity, so divinity is somehow deficient if we don't meet our obligation to be the best that we can be. So there's this radical obligation, right, to seek our own enlightenment. And if we've had a moment of enlightenment, then that experience of enlightenment, that experience of being our authentic selves, is so powerful, is so compelling, that it obligates us and calls us, right, as the reality before which all other realities pale, and there is no other obligation that calls us, that serves us, that demands us, right, that invites us, but with this demanding, you must do this, right, than any other external obligation. So we're obligated to ourselves. The way the ancients said it is, when we're born, we swear an oath. And the oath is to be the ultimate that we can be. Right? Actually, the way the actual sources say it is you're obligated to become a prophet. Why? Because you can. Because you can. So you're off the hook, completely off the hook. You're absolutely right, and we're completely on the hook as well. We're always off the hook and on the hook at the same time. Did you resonate what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just remembered all I did when I made that choice.
Right.
Dropped
Exactly.
out of grad school.
Oh my God. Totally off the hook and totally on the hook.
My parents didn't even know. Yeah, so actually, it was a choice. I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you resist the choice's choice, if you resist eros,
Right.
then that's where you have soul loss. And there's great sayings of Jesus. He said one time that if you fall on the stone, you're going to get broken. In other words, if you go with the flow of eros, you're going to be broken. But if you resist it and the stone falls on you, you're ground into dust.
Right.
So that then there's that other verse in
Jesus
Gospel.
saves.
Yeah, he does.
Right.
He rocks.
He rocks.
In the Gospel of Thomas, where Jesus said, if you bring that which is inside of you, if you leave it inside of you, it will kill you. But if you bring it forth, it'll give you life. Again, that resistance of your